want you to imagine this. You get into work one day, start up your morning routine, do whatever it is you do to get set for the day, when all of a sudden your boss walks up to you and goes, "Hey, by the way, you don't work here anymore. You're going to work for the competition now. I need you to clear out your desk and be out of here by 3 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks for all you've done. We'll catch you later." That'd be pretty insane, right? Well, that's the reality that a lot of NHL players are going to deal with this Friday, because this coming Friday is the NHL Trade Deadline for this season, and it's going to be a very interesting one. It's especially an interesting one this year for our Toronto Maple Leafs, because for the first time in a while, they are not buying at the deadline. They are sellers. But regardless if they're buyers or sellers, it's time for us to ask the annual questions: who's staying, who's going, who should stay, who should go? My name is Liam, my friends call me Hammer, and join me as I take a look at the Toronto Maple Leafs roster and decide who leaves and who stays at the 2026 NHL Trade Deadline. So to start all of this off, I wanted to play a little game and create a starting lineup based on guys that are 100% definitely staying with the Toronto Maple Leafs after 3 o'clock on Friday. Basically what that means, I took one player from each position in the lineup and said, "You're the guy, you're staying." There's a couple obvious ones, like a center, we've got Auston Matthews. He's your captain. I know a lot of people don't like him for a variety of reasons at the moment. He's the captain of your franchise. He's quite possibly the best player to ever play for your franchise. You're not trading Auston Matthews, no matter how much your uncle on Facebook wants to. Similarly, the guy picked at right wing, William Nylander, not going anywhere. Special talent, once-in-a-generation player. He doesn't always play like that every night. But with the right motivation, the right circumstances, William Nylander proves time and time again he can do things that no other guy on the planet is capable of. And rounding out those forwards I think are staying, I chose Matthew Knies at left wing. He's your first proven prospect that you have drafted and developed in years, mostly because you traded all of the other prospects. Matthew Knies, again, special guy. Not a lot of guys can fill that power forward role that he does, with the size, the grit that he's started to show in recent years, the point production. You need a player like that on this team. Matthew Knies doesn't go anywhere. On defense is where it starts to get a little funny, because I picked Morgan Rielly and Jake McCabe. I know a lot of people want Morgan Rielly to go on Friday, and honestly, there's moments throughout the last few weeks where I am one of those people that wants Morgan Rielly to go. But Morgan Rielly has a full no-move clause. I don't see him wanting out of Toronto. He loves playing here, even if he doesn't always show it on the ice. And quite honestly, in particular at this trade deadline, no one really needs him. He's the top defenseman on the Leafs, mostly because we just don't have another top defenseman. But on any other team, he's a bottom four guy. For a lot of contenders, they have their defense core figured out, and if they don't, if they need to add that one more piece, they're going to go out and get someone that's a better option than Morgan Rielly. As for picking Jake McCabe here, he's got term on his deal. He's a great top four defenseman. Consistently, he's one of the few guys on the ice that actually looks like he gives a damn when the Leafs go out there. I just don't see the Leafs wanting to get rid of a guy like that going down the stretch of the season. And in net, I could have tossed a coin. It could have been either guy. Just for the purposes of this starting lineup exercise where I absolutely have to pick one at the position, I went with Joseph Woll simply because he's the younger out of our tandem. There's no heat on Stolarz. I got all love for Stolarz, and I think he's staying. I want him to stay, but gun to my head, picking between the two, I choose Joseph Woll simply because he's got more of a runway in his career. Alright, so from there, let's get into the rest of the guys that I think are sticking around and will still be able to call themselves a Toronto Maple Leaf after 3 p.m. on Friday. I just mentioned him a couple seconds ago, Anthony Stolarz. He's not going anywhere. He's got a new extension kicking in next year. I think you continue the tandem when they're both healthy, which I get isn't often. Him and Woll have proven to be one of the better tandems, if not the best tandem in the league. Stolarz, even on his own, you look last year, again, when he was healthy. I hate that we have to keep specifying that because both of these guys are kind of glass cannons. Stolarz was one of the better goaltenders in the league, consistently had some of the best goals against average for months on end last season. I get this season is a little different, but there's no evidence to say he can't get back to those heights again if he has a team in front of him that knows how to play well. Unfortunately, the 2025-26 Maple Leafs aren't that team, but maybe next year's are. As for defensemen, I think sticking around, Simone Benoit, Chris Tanev, Philippe Myers, and Troy Stecher. With Simone Benoit, he's a hard worker on most nights. He does make a fair amount of mistakes, but he's a perfectly good depth piece on defense. You need guys like that. He's on a cheap deal that expires next year. He could be used as trade fodder as part of a larger deal, but I think there's no need to get rid of him. He's also one of the few guys on this team that is willing to drop the gloves with almost anyone in the league. Granted, that's not as big of a deal in today's game as it has been in the past, but down the stretch when teams are getting frustrated, games are tight, especially when you're the Leafs and you're a team that's not in good standing position. Sometimes you just need a guy to wake up the crowd because the Leafs are not going to be playing entertaining hockey for the next 2 months, and Benoit's the guy that can wake up a dead crowd at Scotiabank Arena. Chris Tanev, sadly, nobody wants the guy this year. He's probably not getting back on the ice before the end of the season, but if you hang on to him and you get back into contention next year, he is 100% a guy that can help you. Sadly, it's starting to look like this could be the end of his career. We could be looking at another Jake Muzzin situation where the Leafs just got the perfect defenseman that they need, but it's too little too late and his body can't keep up with the demands of the game. Philippe Myers is a guy that a lot of you, if you're not Leafs fans, you probably never even heard his name. He makes almost league minimum, and quite frankly, coming up on the deadline, no one wants him. No one's sitting there. Jarmo Kekalainen is not sitting there in Buffalo going, I need Philippe Myers to complete this team and take us to a Stanley Cup. Then again, like Simone Benoit, I could see him being moved as a piece in a much larger deal with something, as a sweetener along with a bigger name. And finally, Troy Stecher. The Leafs claimed him off waivers from the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers could look to bring him back, but with their recent acquisition of a guy like Connor Murphy, they're not looking to pad the stats on defense, maybe as a depth option, but I think Troy Stecher stays where he is in Toronto. He literally does make league min. He's played well for the Leafs when he gets into the lineup. He's a waiver guy. He's not a trade guy. He's probably going to get waived partway through the summer, leave the Leafs partway through the summer, and go be that depth option somewhere else, but I don't think he leaves on Friday. Now we get into the forwards that I think are staying, starting with Auston Matthews. This should be an obvious option of someone that sticks around, but I've seen a lot of mock trades out there that include him in deals. No, don't do that. Here's why. He is your hottest prospect, mostly because he's your only prospect. Take 5 seconds and think to yourself one other name coming up through the Leafs system that you're putting on the same level as Cowan. If you looked at like a prospect pyramid, there's no one kind of at that point of the pyramid along with Auston Matthews. He's the hottest prospect the Leafs have right now. They don't have a lot of those. They need to hang on to this kid. Beyond the fact that the Leafs have no prospects, we know that their draft cupboard is absolutely barren. They have no picks to play with. If you trade a guy like Auston Matthews right now, you're killing even more of your future than you already have. Next up, we're looking at Steven Lorentz. He's a hard worker, a good bottom six guy. He's got term on his deal. He could be part of a bigger package. He could get moved to a contender as that one piece that they need that a lot of people look at and go, oh, why'd they go get him? And then he puts up like 15 points throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. Steven Lorentz could be that guy for a lot of teams, but this year I just don't see it. I think he stays Leaf. Same thing goes for Dakota Joshua. He could be that one guy for a lot of teams. He's got term on his deal, but he comes with a 12-team no-trade list that I don't see him waiving. He's mentioned before that he likes playing in Toronto. He wants to stay Maple Leaf, and he's a hard worker. He shows up on countless nights where the team as a whole doesn't really show up. I think you hang on to him for now. Speaking of guys that want to stay in Toronto, the last name on our staying list, John Tavares, the former captain, some would say the heart of the team, my favorite player on the team. He's an aging superstar. He has a full no-move clause that I do not think in a million years for $1 million he'd be willing to waive. Even if you could promise him a Stanley Cup, you would have to drag this guy out of Toronto. He loves being a Leaf. He wants to stay a Leaf. However, little time is left in his career. This guy wants to retire in Toronto. John Tavares is not going anywhere. And with that, we get into the list of guys that are on their way out of town, or at least I think they could be. There's a lot of names here, so probably not all of them are leaving before the end of the week, but I could see 1, 2, maybe even 3 of them out the door with something, hopefully futures, on the way back for Toronto. First up is Brandon Carlo, acquired from the Boston Bruins at last year's trade deadline. The experiment just didn't work out here. Brandon Carlo was brought in hopefully to be that good fitting partner for Morgan Rielly. It didn't work out. They don't play together too often, if I remember the last couple of games correctly. Carlo, maybe he goes back to Boston. I think a lot of people like Brandon Carlo. What they don't like about him is the price that the Maple Leafs paid for him. They gave up Fraser Minten, one of their top prospects, and a first-round pick. That is top 5 protected, mind you, so the Leafs could always get it back. But Minten was one of those prospect pieces that you could have put on the level of Easton Cowan and said, yeah, this guy can be part of the future. And now you sent that future to one of your biggest rivals, and he's been a revelation for them this year. I think a lot of Leafs Nation, if they could, would renege on the Brandon Carlo deal from last year and just say, you know what, send him back to Boston, get back what we got. It didn't work out. Next on the list is Bobby McMann. He's on an expiring deal, $1.35 million. And Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet has pointed out that he could get as much as $5 million in free agency, something that I just don't see Brad Treliving ponying up. Bobby McMann is, I think, third on the Leafs in points right now, consistently stays in that top 3, top 4 in points on this team because of his top 6 role. He can play middle 6, bottom 6 on most teams in the league and excel in that position. If you send him elsewhere on Friday on this $1.35 million, he would fit perfectly under the playoff salary cap for a lot of teams out there. I think he's just too sweet to look at for a lot of the buyers in this market. Speaking of names in the market, Nicholas Waugh and Matias Maccelli. I have seen both of these guys get mentioned a lot over the last few days. Nick Waugh has a year remaining on his $3 million deal, so if you trade him, you're trading a guy with term. That probably gets you a better deal. Matias Maccelli is an expiring contract, but he's a restricted free agent, something that looks good to teams that are looking to contend for the next couple of years. Both of these guys were picked up this summer. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Maccelli trade was the last trade that Brad Treliving made almost 230 days ago, if not more. Either of them or both could be out the door before Friday, and I say go. You can get back prospects for them. You can pick up maybe a 3rd or a 4th round pick for either guy, maybe even a 2nd for both of them. Make it happen, Brad. Next on my list is Calle Jarnkrok. I forgot he was on this team. And you know what? I'm sure a lot of other teams out there have forgotten that he's a Toronto Maple Leaf, so why not make him part of your team? Make him a piece in a deal, send him along with a guy on the Marlies, and pick up a couple of picks for it. Jarnkrok is a good depth option at the forward position. He can slot in center, he can slot in on the left wing. A lot of teams can use a guy like that. Next name we're going to talk about, Nick Robertson, and I know exactly where I would trade him to. Robertson was projected to be a better player than he was, but that happens for a lot of guys. Their expectations that are placed on them are higher than what they're able to achieve. Robertson has become a perfectly good middle 6 to bottom 6 option for the Leafs. He plays his position well, and sometimes even once a week, he becomes that player that we were promised he would be when he came out of the Peterborough Petes in the OHL. Where I personally would send him, even though they don't really need a player like this, send him to Dallas. Let him play with his brother. I think him and Jason would build excellent chemistry on a mishmashed unit. I know Jason is much higher in the lineup than Nick probably would be. Let them go have fun together, raise some hell. Dallas is 100% a contender this year. I think they have like the 2nd or 3rd best odds to win the cup. I keep picking them as my favorite in the West to come out and make it to the final, sometimes even win, and they just never make it happen. This could be that year for the Stars, and you know what? I would love to see Nick Robertson do it with them. Last on this list of guys that I think are on their way out, Max Domi. Biggest question with Max Domi is, has it worked out? Has he been the Leaf that we all thought he would be? Obviously, the name Domi carries a lot of weight in Toronto. His father, Ty, is a beloved all-timer Maple Leaf. Max could never live up to that standard, and I don't think he tries to. But for what he is, what he's capable of, what we know him to be capable of, he doesn't always show it. every night. A lot of nights he takes those stupid penalties. It almost seems some nights like he's trying to play like his father, be this hard-nosed, in-the-trenches enforcer, when he's got so much more talent than that. He can be a fantastic playmaker. He can shoot the puck. He just doesn't always do it sometimes, and it's really frustrating. Along with his $3.75 million price tag, Max Domi does come with a 13-team no-move list, but he does have term on his deal. If you can find a team off that 13-team list or get him to waive that no-movement clause, I think he would be a perfect piece for a lot of teams heading into the playoffs. So that's the end of my list of guys I think are going, but if you've been keeping score, there are two very big names I have not mentioned yet. Those names, of course, being Scott Laughton and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And these are the two guys I'm posing as our massive question marks, our riddles to solve. I have loved both of these guys playing on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Leafs have as well. Scott Laughton has been the best player for them all year, the most consistent, the heart and soul of the team, gives fantastic answers when speaking to the media, which is not always a difficult thing in a market like Toronto. Everyone loves to make fun of us for that. And he consistently shows up every night. He gets in those corners. He can put up points when you need him to. He can play second line, third line, fourth line. I would trust him on the first line. That's how much I'm loving Scott Laughton as a Leaf. As for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, a career renaissance. Nobody thought he could get back to this level at the age he's at. He's putting on a defensive clinic most nights. He's playing on the power play unit. OEL has been fantastic in a blue and white uniform. If the Maple Leafs are able to have a successful retool and come back at it next year and be a contender for the Stanley Cup, I want both of these guys on this team, and I think both of them want to be on this team. Scott Laughton, being an Oakville, Ontario native, has said numerous times he wants to stay in Toronto. OEL said to the media the other day when asked about the prospect of being traded, he likes it here in Toronto, his family likes it here in Toronto. I think both of these guys want to stick around. The question becomes, for all the reasons I previously listed about how good of players they have been for the Leafs, their trade value is very high right now. And for a guy as old as Oliver Ekman-Larsson is becoming, that trade value may not get any better than it is right now. And it might be something you just have to act upon. Like I said, I love both of these guys. I really want them to stick around. But if a deal comes across Brad Treliving's desk that you just can't say no to, like if someone's offering you a piece on defense and a first-round pick this year for OEL, I'm taking that. It doesn't even have to be a good piece on defense. I just really want the Leafs to have a first-round pick this year because it is depressing what our draft cover looks like. Take a look at it right now. It's very sad. But anyway, those are just my thoughts on what I think the Leafs can do with each of these players, but I want to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments below who you think is on the move from the Leafs this year, who you think the Leafs could pick up, what you think is going to happen across the whole NHL, because there's 31 teams I didn't talk about here because I just don't care about them. I mean, look how I'm dread. Look at the banner on the wall. There's one team that I really give a damn about right now. But please do leave a comment down below, and while you're down there, why not leave a like and subscribe for plenty more videos like this. Of course, as I mentioned, the trade deadline is coming at us this Friday, March 6th at 3 p.m., although we always hear about a couple of trades that trickle down after that, and I'm going to talk about all of them on this weekend's episode of Blue and White Weekly. Speaking of, I'm repping the Blue and White Weekly sweatshirt that you can get at the link below on our TeePublic shop. Please support the channel, it would mean a lot. And I guess that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you later.